Previously on Meerkat Manor, the Whiskers group was reunited after being split in two. And dominant female Flower was furious with Tosca when she was caught red-handed in charge of the breakaway group. Meet the Whiskers. Flower, the leader of the group. Zaphod, her partner. Yozerian, with some social problems. Mozart, the caring one. Tosca, the rebellious one. Courageous little Shakespeare. And the naughty kids. Welcome to Meerkat Manor. When you're a meerkat with a family of 40 to accommodate, the vast landscapes of the Kalahari Desert are the perfect place to live. Flower, the head of the Whiskers family, calls 3 square miles of its bush, scrub, and sand dunes home. They happily share it with a vast range of other wildlife, but defend it to the death from other meerkats. In this way, they are just like any other meerkat family. But what makes them different is that they've been studied by a team from Cambridge University for the last 10 years. Flower, the head of the family, has a transmitter around her neck to track their movements, and cameras at their burrows mean every detail of their social lives is documented. With the recent family split, there's been a lot for everyone to take on board. The Whiskers family are doing their best to settle back into the normal pattern of their lives here in their little corner of the Kalahari. But it seems no one has forgotten the trauma of the breakup. All the females who ended up in the breakaway group are keen to tell their boss, Flower, how sorry they are by being very submissive. Although it wasn't their fault, the fact remains that they followed a different leader, and that's treason. Flower's partner, dominant male Zaphod, is also enjoying the attention of some of the young males, who mistakenly followed his brother Yozerian when the group split. What they're doing is just good family politics, and it's helping to heal the rift. The key thing for both of them is to remain aloof and assert their superiority, something Flower is an expert at. But there's no way back for Flower's daughter, Tosca. She had already been evicted from the Whiskers by Mom and was then caught red-handed in charge of the splinter group. Now, she's public enemy number 1 and is not allowed anywhere near the family. Her sister Daisy, by contrast, got away scot-free. She was originally in charge of the splinter group from the start, but handed it over to Tosca just before Flower came back. She may not be so lucky with her next misdemeanor. If she's looking a little awkward in her walk as she forages for food, it's because 70 days ago, Daisy had a liaison with the enemy. She snuck off for a romantic encounter with Carlos. He's the Casanova of the meerkat world and seems to have a knack with the Whiskers girls. Despite being part of the Lazuli family, they're arch rivals. Now she's about to give birth to his pups. Unfortunately, dominant female, Flower, jealously reserves all breeding rights for herself, and she won't be happy. But right now, all Daisy cares about is finding a last meal. Flower's greedy pup, Mitch, is up to his usual tricks and has decided he wants Jogu's millipede. The last time these two fought over food, Mitch was twice the size of Tosca's pup, so it was a steal. But Jogu's come a long way since then, and he's determined not to let this big bully get the better of him. Finally, Mitch's extra strength and size wins the day, and he's off to enjoy his prize. Jogu is left hungry and cross. But just when Mitch thought it was safe, Daisy spots him and with lightning speed takes the millipede for her supper. It's pretty rough justice, but around here, it's survival of the fattest. family has spent the whole morning foraging, but they are always on alert for danger and have picked up an unwelcome scent. There's an enemy inside this hollow tree, but what is it? Flower leads the family as they use their threatening spit calls to tell whatever is in there to go away. This mobbing behavior is used to scare off potential predators by displaying both the number and ferocity of the family members. The last time they did this, it was to mob a puff adder, which eventually bit Shakespeare on the leg and nearly killed him. This time, he's wisely positioned himself up the tree. But the tree is home to an altogether different foe. It's a genet, a type of wildcat not much bigger than a domestic cat, who would be quite happy to have a meerkat pup for lunch. Flower's latest litter is watching the action from a safe distance. They're just a bit too young to get involved this time, but they are avidly learning the ropes. The brave little meerkats take turns sticking their heads into the tree. They spit and growl at their enemy. The group is not going to give up until they've sent the genet packing. Finally, faced with such relentless and fierce opposition, he's had enough and makes a swift exit. And with the job done, the Whiskers can relax. This has been a great chance for the family to pull together, work as a team, and show that they are united once again. But as they head back to the burrow, there's one family member who's been noticeably absent from the mobbing, and that's Daisy. She has spent the afternoon giving birth, and now she's in a state of confusion. Unfortunately, she chose a bolt hole to have her litter, and it's a few hundred meters away from the main burrow where the family is living. Whether she did this to protect her pups from the wrath of Flower, who may kill the pups of any subordinate female, or whether it is just the inexperience of a first-time mom, either way, it was a big mistake. Eventually, she goes below ground to check on her new arrivals. She may have had up to 7 pups, and they will need a lot of feeding. As the day draws to an end, the rest of the family return from their foraging trip. Keen to get home, they run straight past the bolt hole where Daisy has given birth. But some of the Whiskers pick up her scent. After seeing what she's done, they head for home. If Flower had given birth here, everyone would stay to protect her pups. But as this is only subordinate Daisy, she's abandoned. But as night falls, the family is becoming anxious. Despite making the decision to sleep at their main burrow, they simply can't settle. Daisy is miserable and scared. She wants to be with her family. But with a storm brewing, she decides to follow her maternal instincts. Daisy can only hope that someone in the family comes to her rescue. The family would normally be tucked up in their burrow at this time of night. All the kids are in bed, but the adults can't sleep. In the pitch dark, some of them make their way to Daisy's burrow. Meerkats rarely risk being out at night. There are too many predators, so this must be serious. Daisy's little family can't stay out alone, but it's too dangerous to move pups who are just hours old. No one knows what to do. Flower hesitates, then eventually decides to go and investigate. She could end the whole problem here and now by killing the pups. Moments later, she emerges. But what has she done? Flower may have handed out some tough medicine to Daisy. Having pups is strictly against the rules, and now she's putting the safety of the whole family at risk. Underground, Daisy is alone again. But suddenly she has a visitor. It's Yossarian. He's infamous for forcing den moves with pups that are too young, and the last time he did it, one of Mozart's pups died. So what's he got in mind this time? Back at the main burrow, Flower joins the family, keeping a lookout for the two missing meerkats. They're in for a shock. Moments later, Daisy emerges with a tiny pup in her mouth and rushes for the safety of the family. It seems that Yossarian has managed to persuade her to risk a den move. Everyone is straining to see them through the darkness, and they can hardly believe what they are seeing. Minutes later, and the pair are back at Daisy's bolt hole. There must be more pups down there, but do they dare risk moving another one? Yossarian emerges with Daisy close behind, and she's got another newborn pup in her mouth. Although two pups have been saved, as the night wears on, Yossarian anxiously visits again and again. There must be other pups down there, but he's not prepared to move them without their mom. But where is Daisy? Eventually, Yossarian admits defeat. Daisy's not coming back. And he leaves behind the remaining pups desperate for their mom. The next morning, Daisy is the first up, and her initial instinct is to return to her abandoned pups, but they're unlikely to have survived the night without their mother's warmth nor her milk. Yossarian is next up, and he's also unusually quiet after last night's mayhem. Daisy decides to go and check on her abandoned pups. Flower is also up and about. She busies herself with the usual morning routine of burrow excavation, but even she is subdued. Daisy goes below to check out the birth chamber. She has confirmed the worst. Her abandoned pups are dead. But there's no time to dwell. She has to get back to the two little pups she managed to save. The rest of the group decides to investigate the bolt hole, as Flower wants to see for herself what's happened. Daisy can do nothing about it. She just has to try and look after her surviving pups. The Whiskers family has set off for the day's foraging, leaving Daisy and big sister Mozart behind to babysit the two surviving pups. But the group hasn't gotten far before they find another unwelcome inhabitant of their territory. The youngsters in the family are crowding around a horned adder and mobbing it with their spit calls. Leading this fearless little gang is the feisty Mitch. He may be a bit of a nightmare when it comes to food, but his strong personality makes him brave in the face of the enemy. It's more than can be said for Shakespeare. Ever since his Puff Adder bite, he gives snake mobbing a wide berth. At least it proves his leg has healed. The horned adder's bite is not normally fatal, so the youngsters have been using him to practice their mobbing techniques. Inspired by their parents mobbing the genet, it's been an opportunity to have a go on their own. But Flower is keen to get the group moving again, so it's time to leave the snake in peace. Back at the burrow, Daisy's ordeal is far from over. She and Mozart are still babysitting and are starting to get concerned. The rest of the family set off foraging a while ago and haven't been seen since. Flower is leading the way, but the group is now moving at quite a speed, and they're not doing much eating. As the day wears on, there's no sign of the Whiskers returning to the original burrow. They've been away for hours, and Daisy is starting to panic again. The Whiskers are at least a half-mile away, and this is starting to look more like a den move than a foraging trip. It seems that Flower has decided that it's time to make a fresh start in a new home. It's one way of dealing with the problem of unwanted pups. Back at the burrow they left behind, Daisy decides to go off and look for them. But after a half hour of searching, there's still no sign of them. By the time she returns, she's becoming frantic. Her big sister Mozart tries to calm her with some grooming. But it's no use, and the pair has to face the fact that they and the pups have been abandoned. If they stay here alone, they have little chance of survival. There's no way they can move the tiny pups over such a long distance. The nearest burrow is more than a mile away. It's a horrible dilemma. In the end, the pair is left with no choice. They run off to follow the trail of the others, leaving Daisy's two little pups to their fate. It's getting late by the time the family reaches the new den site. Poor Daisy has managed to catch up with them, but is still torn between her family and her maternal instincts. But now, going back to the pups would be suicide. As the family settles in for the night, Daisy has made her choice. The last 24 hours have been an ordeal, but at least she's with her family again. Yossarian tried his best to help with her pups, but it just wasn't enough. For the rest of the family, it's just another part of their lives here in Africa. Some pups make it, and some pups don't. If they were Flower's kids, they would have never been abandoned. And around here, it's survival of the fittest. Next time on Meerkat Manor, two inexperienced babysitters get into trouble when boredom makes them abandon their duties, and Tosca gets a little too close for comfort.